The great hall of Axiom Prime stretched for miles. Its ceiling disappeared into clouds of swirling light. Representatives from 43 species filled the chamber, their bodies shaped by 1,000 different worlds. Some floated, some crawled, some stood on legs that numbered from 2 to 20. Ambassador stood at humanity's small platform near the back of the hall. Earth's position said everything about how the galaxy saw her kind. Young, weak, barely worth noticing. She had held this post for 15 years, and in all that time nothing had changed. The High Commander stepped onto the central stage, was massive, nearly 3 meters tall. His gray skin was covered in ceremonial scars. His 4 eyes swept across the assembly with the confidence of a predator who had never known fear. "The hegemony will expand into the neutral rim," he announced. His voice boomed through translation devices around the hall. "Those territories are wasted on primitive species who cannot defend them. We will bring order." Felt her stomach tighten. The neutral rim contained 18 unprotected worlds. 3 of them held human colonies. 4 million of her people lived on a planet called Sanctuary. She pressed the button that requested speaking time. The system placed her at the end of the queue. Of course it did. The ambassador spoke first. His species resembled tall birds with silver feathers. They were one of the few who had shown kindness to humanity over the centuries. "The conquered exists to prevent exactly this kind of aggression," he said. "We urge the hegemony to reconsider." Laughed. The sound was like rocks grinding together. "They are welcome to stop us if they can." No one else spoke against the plan. Watched as species she had known for years looked away. Some nodded in agreement. Others simply stayed silent. The strong did as they wished in this galaxy. The weak either submitted or died. Finally, her turn came. She walked to the central stage. Her human body looked fragile next to the towering. She stood barely 170 centimeters tall. Her dress uniform was simple blue and gray. She carried no weapons, no guards. "Earth formally protests this expansion," said. Her voice was calm and clear. "Human colonies exist in the neutral rim. Our people are not yours to threaten." Leaned down toward her. His breath was hot and smelled of copper. "Humanity is rated Tier 7. You can barely defend your own system. What will you do if we ignore your protest?" Met his 4 eyes without flinching. "We are asking you to reconsider. Humanity has shown the conquered only what we wished you to see. We are capable of more than you understand. We urge restraint." The hall went quiet for a moment. Then laughter erupted. It came from the first, then spread to others. The delegation clicked their mandibles in amusement. They turned their eye stalks away in dismissal. His voice carried over the noise. "The humans offer threats. This is what 200 years in the conquered has taught them," he addressed the full assembly. "Let this serve as a reminder. Know your place or you will be shown it." Said nothing more. She returned to humanity's small platform and stood in silence as the session continued. Other business was discussed, trade agreements, border disputes. The life of the galaxy continued around her. When the session ended, she walked alone to the human embassy. It was a small building on the outskirts of Axiom Prime's diplomatic district. She passed through security doors and descended 3 levels underground to a room that officially did not exist. Admiral waited for her. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes. A holographic display floated between them, showing the galaxy's military ratings. "They laughed at you," he said. "They always do." Touched the display. It shifted to show humanity's official fleet, 47 ships, old designs, outdated weapons, enough to protect Earth's solar system from pirates, nothing more. Then he touched it again. The display expanded. Hidden shipyards appeared in the cloud, far beyond any alien sensor range. 12,000 warships filled the screen. Carriers that could deploy entire fighter wings. Dreadnoughts with weapons that could crack planets. stealth vessels that had operated in alien space for decades without ever being detected. 200 years, said softly. We have waited 200 years for this moment to never come. We hoped we would never need to reveal ourselves. Studied the display. She had known the secret her entire career. Every human ambassador did. It was the only way to smile through the insults, to bow through the humiliation, knowing that behind the mask, humanity was not weak. What do we do now? She asked. We wait, we watch, and if they touch sanctuary, his jaw tightened, then the mask comes off. 3 weeks later, a scout fleet entered the neutral rim. 50 warships moved through empty space, heading toward the vulnerable worlds that stood in their path. Their first target was already chosen. On Sanctuary, Governor David stood in his office and watched the stars. He was a tall man with kind eyes and steady hands. He had built this colony from nothing over 30 years. 4 million people called it home. Farmers, teachers, children, families who wanted nothing but peace. His communication officer entered the room. Her face was pale. Governor, long-range sensors have detected a fleet. They will arrive in 6 days. Closed his eyes. He had always known this day might come. Send the signal to Earth. Tell them what is happening. Then begin evacuation procedures for the outer settlements. The officer hesitated. Sir, we have no military. We cannot fight them. I know, turned to face her. But Earth will answer. And when they do, they will learn something that will change this galaxy forever. In the cold depths of space, the fleet continued its approach. Commander stood on his bridge and reviewed the target data. Sanctuary had no defenses, no warships, no orbital stations. It would fall in hours. He had received reports of the human ambassador's warning at Axiom Prime. He had laughed along with everyone else. Tier 7 species did not threaten the hegemony. They begged, they surrendered, they died. What could humans possibly be hiding? He would find out soon enough. On Earth, in a bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, the Global Defense Assembly gathered. Representatives from every nation sat in a chamber built to survive the end of worlds. Admiral stood before them. Sanctuary is threatened, he said. We have waited 2 centuries. We have watched our people be dismissed and mocked. We have smiled through every insult because we knew the truth. He paused. The time has come to decide. Do we continue hiding, or do we finally show the galaxy who we really are? The vote was unanimous. The mask was about to come off. The year was 2147, when humanity first discovered they were not alone. A research vessel named the Pathfinder detected an alien signal near Jupiter. The crew made contact with a trading ship. The meeting was peaceful. They were kind. They welcomed humanity to the galactic community and offered to guide them. But they also delivered a warning. Be careful, the captain had said. The galaxy is not a friendly place. The strong take from the weak. Many young species do not survive their first century among the stars. Earth's leaders listened. They studied the galactic records they shared. They learned about the hegemony, which had conquered 40 worlds. They learned about the Dominion, which had wiped out 3 species entirely. They learned about the Silent War, where an entire civilization was erased because they threatened the wrong empire. A decision was made in secret. Humanity would hide its true strength. They would appear weak and harmless while building power in the shadows. They would smile through insults and bow to threats, all while preparing for the day when they could no longer hide. Project Prometheus was born. Now, 200 years later, Doctor floated through the Vale shipyard. It was hidden in the frozen darkness at the edge of the solar system, far beyond any alien sensor range. The facility stretched across thousands of kilometers, invisible against the black of space. 12,000 warships waited here. They had never fired a shot. They had never been seen by alien eyes. They existed only in human records, maintained by crews who understood the importance of patience. Beautiful, aren't they? Admiral's voice came through her helmet radio. He floated beside her, looking out at the fleet. I helped design most of them, replied. The Titan-class dreadnoughts, the Ghost-class stealth ships, the Hammer orbital platforms. She paused. I always hoped we would never need to use them. So did I, pointed toward a massive carrier at the center of the formation. It was 5 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. The Judgment, our flagship, it's been hiding in plain sight for 50 years, disguised as a diplomatic frigate called the Olive Branch. Had read the reports. The Olive Branch traveled throughout the galaxy on peaceful missions. Alien species laughed at its outdated appearance. None of them knew that beneath its fake hull was one of the most powerful warships ever built. How long until Prometheus is fully activated? She asked. The Assembly voted 3 hours ago. All hidden assets are being brought to combat readiness. Our agents in space are standing by. Turned to face her. I need you to oversee the final weapons check on the First Fleet. 800 ships will jump to Sanctuary within the next 48 hours. Nodded. She had spent her life building instruments of destruction, hoping they would rust in peace. Now that hope was gone. Far across the galaxy, the fleet arrived at Sanctuary. Commander stood on his bridge and watched the blue-green world grow larger on his screen. It looked peaceful. Farms and cities dotted its surface. Small transport ships moved between orbital stations that held no weapons. Pathetic, he muttered. They did not even try to run. His communications officer looked up. Sir, we are receiving a message from the planet. A man named wishes to negotiate. Smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Tell him our terms. Unconditional surrender. All resources belong to the hegemony. All humans will be relocated to labor camps on our outer worlds. The officer sent the message. A response came quickly. Governor's face appeared on screen. He was calm despite the fear that must have been burning in his chest. I understand your terms. I am asking for time to organize the evacuation of civilians. Please, we have children here, families. We need at least 72 hours. Leaned forward. You have 12 hours. After that, we begin landing troops. Anyone who resists will be killed as an example. The transmission ended. Returned to studying his tactical display. The humans had no weapons, no ships, no way to fight back. This would be the easiest conquest of his career. What he did not know was that had already sent a different message. A coded signal that traveled faster than light to Earth. 3 words that would change everything. They are here. On Earth, Admiral received the message in his command center. Staff officers moved around him, coordinating the largest military operation in human history. Screens showed fleet positions, jump coordinates, and target data. They have given Sanctuary 12 hours, an aide reported. After that, they will begin occupation. Check the time. The First Fleet could reach Sanctuary in 16 hours using standard jump technology, but humanity had developed something better, something no alien species had ever imagined. Slipstream corridors. Tunnels through folded space that allowed instant travel across thousands of light years. Humanity had built them in secret over 2 centuries, connecting Earth to every corner of the galaxy. The Olive Branch can reach Sanctuary in 3 hours, said. It will deliver our final warning. If they refuse, the First Fleet will follow immediately through the hidden corridor. And if they accept the warning, the aide asked. Was quiet for a moment. They won't. I've studied their species for 40 years. The respect only strength. They will not believe we have any until we show them. He turned to address his full staff. 200 years ago, our ancestors made a choice. They swallowed their pride. They accepted humiliation. They did this so that we would survive long enough to become strong. His voice hardened. Today, we honor their sacrifice. Today, the galaxy learns that humanity is not prey. Send the signal. Activate all Prometheus assets. Across the solar system and beyond, hidden installations came to life. Ships powered up, weapons charged, soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment prepared to move. On Axiom Prime, Ambassador received her own orders. She was to reveal humanity's true military strength to the galactic Concord. The information would be delivered at the exact moment the First Fleet emerged at Sanctuary. She sat alone in her quarters, reading through the files she would present. Fleet strength, weapons capabilities, the locations of human assets the galaxy never knew existed. They had warned humanity about the dangers of the galaxy 200 years ago. Soon, the galaxy would receive its own warning. Thought about the High Commander who had laughed at her. She thought about all the species who had mocked humanity for being weak. She thought about the children on Sanctuary who were waiting for rescue. Then she began to prepare. On Sanctuary, Governor watched the fleet from his window. 50 warships hung in orbit like patient predators. His people were scared. Some were crying, some were praying. "Governor," his aide said softly, "are you sure Earth will come?" Turned to look at her. He had kept the secret his entire career. Every colonial governor knew the truth about humanity's hidden strength. They had to, in case moments like this came. "They will come," he said, "and when they do, they will learn that they made a terrible mistake." Above the planet, Commander received a report. A single ship had entered the system. It was small and old, broadcasting human diplomatic codes. The registry identified it as the Olive Branch. Laughed. "They sent a diplomatic ship to negotiate." He shook his head. "Humans are even more foolish than I thought. Hail them. Let us hear their surrender." But the message that came was not a surrender. It was a warning. Captain stood on the bridge of the Olive Branch and watched the fleet fill her. 50 warships. Each one could destroy her little ship with a single shot. At least, that was what they believed. She smiled. "Captain," her tactical officer said, "the commander is responding to our hail." "Put him through." Commander's face appeared on screen. His 4 eyes studied her with a mix of confusion and amusement. "I expected surrender terms. Instead, you come in a ship older than my grandfather. What game are you playing, human?" Kept her voice calm and steady. "I am captain of the Earth Defense Force. I carry a message from the Global Defense Assembly." She paused to let the words settle. "You have entered sovereign human territory. You have threatened our citizens. You have 1 solar hour to withdraw your fleet from this system." Blinked, then he laughed. The sound was harsh and ugly. "1 hour or what? Or you will face the consequences." "The consequences," leaned closer to his camera. "Human, I have 50 warships. You have 1 diplomatic vessel. Your entire species is rated Tier 7. You cannot protect yourselves from pirates, let alone from the hegemony." He spread his massive arms wide. "What consequences could you possibly deliver?" Did not flinch. "This is not a threat, Commander. This is mercy. In 1 hour, that mercy will end. I strongly suggest you take this warning seriously." Was quiet for a moment. Then he turned to someone off-screen and spoke in his own language. Heard laughter from his bridge crew. "I am going to broadcast this conversation to the entire galactic Concord," announced. "Every species in the galaxy will watch humanity's delusion. They will see what happens when weak creatures threaten their betters." The transmission ended. Checked her displays. The ships were holding position. None of them were moving to withdraw. "The broadcast is going out," her communications officer reported. "Hundreds of worlds are watching, including Axiom Prime." "Good," settled into her command chair. "Begin the countdown, and send confirmation to Admiral that the warning has been delivered." On Axiom Prime, Ambassador walked into the Grand Assembly Hall. The chamber was full. Representatives from every species in the Concord had gathered to watch the broadcast from Sanctuary. Many were smiling. They expected entertainment. The High Commander stood at the central stage. "Watch carefully," he announced to the assembly. This is what happens when insects challenge the natural order. Took her position at humanity's small platform. Her heart was pounding, but her face showed nothing. In her hand was a data device containing files that would shock the galaxy. The broadcast from Sanctuary played across massive screens. Its fleet hung in space like circling predators. The tiny olive branch drifted alone before them. Look at them, the ambassador clicked. They sent one ship. The humans have finally lost their minds. More laughter filled the hall. Watched the countdown on her display. 52 minutes remaining. At Sanctuary, Governor had gathered his people in the colony's central square. 4 million humans looked up at the sky, watching the alien ships that had come to conquer them. Children clung to their parents. Old men and women stood with quiet dignity. Help is coming, told them through speakers that reached every corner of the colony. I know you are afraid, I am afraid too, but I promise you we are not alone. Earth has not forgotten us. A young girl tugged at her mother's sleeve. Mama, who is going to save us? Her mother looked at the sky. Everyone's sweetheart, everyone is coming. On the olive branch, the countdown continued. 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Commander grew impatient. He had expected the humans to break, to beg, to offer new terms. Instead, their little ship just sat there, silent and still. This is ridiculous, he growled. They are stalling, prepare all weapons. When the hour ends, we destroy their ship and begin the occupation. Sir, his tactical officer said hesitantly, our sensors are detecting unusual readings from the human vessel. Its power output is higher than expected. How much higher? The officer checked his instruments 3 times. Sir, its reactor output matches a Tier 2 battlecruiser. Frowned, that is impossible. Scan again. I have scanned 7 times. The readings are accurate. That ship is not what it appears to be. For the first time, a small doubt entered his mind, but he pushed it away. Humans were weak. Everyone knew this. Whatever trick they were playing, it would not save them. On Axiom Prime, the countdown reached 10 minutes. Activated her data device. If I may address the assembly, she said, her voice cutting through the chatter. Looked at her with contempt. The human wishes to speak. Let her. Perhaps she wants to apologize for her species' foolishness. Walked to the central stage. Every eye in the chamber followed her. The small human woman stood where galactic powers had delivered historic speeches. She looked terribly alone. 200 years ago, she began, humanity joined the galactic conquered. We were young, inexperienced. We had much to learn about the galaxy. Yes, yes, interrupted. Get to the apology. We learned quickly, continued, ignoring him. We learned that the strong prey on the weak. We learned that kindness is rare. We learned that survival requires strength. She paused. So we built strength, in secret, in silence. While the galaxy laughed at us, we prepared. She activated her data device. Holographic displays burst to life throughout the chamber. They showed shipyards hidden in the darkness between stars. They showed fleets of warships that dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. They showed weapons platforms, military bases, and technology that made the hegemony look primitive. The laughter died. 12,000 warships, said calmly, hidden in locations the galaxy has never detected, 27,000 orbital defense platforms, weapons capable of destroying planets, technology 200 years ahead of anything in the conquered. She looked directly at. Humanity is not Tier 7, High Commander. We never were. His 4 eyes went wide. This is a lie, this is a trick. Watch the broadcast, replied, and see for yourself. On the screens, the countdown reached 0. At Sanctuary, Captain stood. Commander, she said, her voice broadcast to the entire galaxy. Your hour has ended. You chose not to withdraw. You chose to threaten our people. You chose to ignore our mercy. She pressed a button on her console. The olive branch began to change. Its outer hull fell away in sections, revealing the ship hidden beneath. It grew larger, more angular, bristling with weapons that glowed with terrible energy. The diplomatic frigate was gone. In its place stood the command carrier Judgment, 5 kilometers of pure military power. "God forgive us for what comes next," said. Stumbled backward from his. "All ships, open fire, destroy that vessel." 50 warships fired at once. Thousands of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the Judgment. The barrage was enough to destroy a small moon. The Judgment's shields flared once. They held without even flickering. On Axiom Prime, the assembly watched in stunned silence. Several representatives began rushing toward the exits, desperate to warn their governments. Remained at the central stage, her expression unchanged. They chose to attack. Now they will see what humanity held back. In space around Sanctuary, reality itself seemed to bend and tear. 800 points of light appeared, growing larger by the second. The hidden slipstream corridor had opened. The human First Fleet had arrived. Commander looked at his tactical display. 800 warships surrounded his fleet. Each one was larger and more powerful than his flagship. His 50 ships were trapped like insects in a jar. "This is impossible," he whispered. "This cannot be real." On the Judgment, Captain's voice was broadcast to every ship in the system, to every world watching the transmission, to every species in the galaxy. "For 200 years humanity waited. We hoped this day would never come. We prayed that peace would be possible." Her voice hardened. "You taught us that peace requires strength. You taught us that mercy is weakness. Today, we teach you the lesson you gave us." She turned to her weapons officer. "Open fire." The battle lasted 90 seconds. Commander watched his fleet die. One moment, his 50 warships were firing everything they had at the human vessels. The next moment, space itself seemed to burn with white light. The human weapons were beyond anything he had ever seen. Beams of energy cut through shields like they were made of paper. Missiles that moved faster than sensors could track slammed into hulls and detonated with the force of small stars. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds exploded one after another, their wreckage spinning into the void. His own flagship shook as something struck it. Warning alarms screamed. His crew shouted damage reports that grew worse by the second. Shields failing. Hull breach on decks 7 through 12. Weapons offline. "We need to retreat," his first officer screamed. But there was nowhere to go. The human fleet surrounded them completely. 800 warships formed a sphere of death with no escape. Every jump route was blocked. Every direction led to more human guns. A final shot struck his bridge. He felt heat and pain, and then he felt nothing at all. 90 seconds, 50 warships, 0 human casualties. On the Judgment, Captain watched the last enemy vessel break apart. Debris floated where a fleet had been moments before. The screens showed nothing but wreckage and silence. "Report," she said calmly. "All enemy ships destroyed," her tactical officer replied. "We took 17 hits total. Shield damage is less than 2%. No injuries to report." Nodded. She had known this would be the result. They had been fighting with technology 200 years behind humanity's real capabilities. They never had a chance. But this was only the beginning. "Send confirmation to Admiral," she ordered. "Phase 1 is complete. Begin Phase 2. Across the galaxy, humanity struck at the same moment. On 11 military worlds, hidden human forces revealed themselves. Strike teams that had been sleeping in secret bases for decades emerged from shadows. Orbital platforms that had disguised themselves as asteroids powered up their weapons. Ships that had traveled cloaked through enemy space dropped their stealth fields. The hegemony's largest shipyard vanished in a ball of nuclear fire. Their weapons factories melted under sustained beam attacks. Their communication networks went dark as human hackers destroyed systems that had been infected with silent viruses years ago. In less than 2 hours, the hegemony's ability to wage war was broken. On Axiom Prime, the Galactic Concord watched in horror. The screens in the Grand Assembly Hall showed destruction on a scale no one had imagined. Human fleets appeared from nowhere, struck with overwhelming force, and vanished before any response could be organized. It was not a war, it was an execution. Ambassador stood at the central stage, answering no questions, showing no emotion. Representatives from dozens of species surrounded her, shouting demands and accusations. How long have you been planning this? What else are you hiding? Are you going to attack us next? Raised her hand. The shouting stopped. Even now, surrounded by species that had mocked her for 15 years, she carried an authority that had not existed before today. Humanity does not seek conquest, she said. We do not want to rule the galaxy. We want only to be left in peace. Her eyes swept across the assembly. For 200 years we were patient, we were peaceful, we were mocked for our weakness. Today the galaxy has learned that our patience was a gift, our peace was a choice. High Commander pushed through the crowd. His face was twisted with rage and fear. You will pay for this. The hegemony will gather its remaining forces. We will. You will do nothing, interrupted. Check your communications. Your military is gone. Your shipyards are burning. Your weapons factories are dust. She stepped closer to him. And the Second Fleet is currently taking position around your. Froze what? On the screens, the image changed. A world appeared, beautiful and blue, covered in clouds and cities where billions of people lived. Surrounding it were human warships, hundreds of them, thousands of them, a fleet so large that it partially blocked out the sun. 10 billion of your people live on that world, said softly. Every one of them is within range of our weapons right now. We could end your species in an hour. We could erase your civilization from history. Sank to his knees. The most powerful military commander in the galaxy knelt before a human woman who was half his size. Please, he whispered, we surrender. We will agree to anything, just spare our people. Looked down at him. For 200 years, humanity had bowed and scraped before beings like this one. They had swallowed insults. They had accepted humiliation. They had hidden their strength because they knew that the galaxy would never leave them in peace if it saw what they truly were. Now the secret was out, and humanity had a choice to make. On Earth, Admiral watched the same feeds that the Conquered was seeing. His staff stood around him in tense silence. The entire planet was watching. The entire species was waiting to see what would happen next. They have surrendered, an aide reported. They are requesting terms. Studied the images from all those cities, all those people, children who had never worn a uniform, families who had never threatened anyone. They were not responsible for the actions of their military. They were just people like the humans on Sanctuary. Sir, another aide said carefully, some of the admirals are suggesting we make an example to ensure no species ever threatens humanity again. Turned to look at her. What kind of example? The southern continent of there. It is mostly industrial, low population. A precision strike would demonstrate our capabilities without excessive civilian casualties. Excessive civilian casualties. The words hung in the air like poison. Thought about the journey that had brought humanity to this moment. 200 years of hiding. 200 years of smiling through insults and bowing before threats. They had done it to survive. They had built their strength in the shadows because they knew the galaxy was dangerous. But was this who they wanted to be? A species that killed millions to make a point. A civilization that proved its strength through destruction. He thought about his grandmother, who had died when he was young. She had been one of the first humans to meet an alien species. She had told him stories about that day, about the wonder she felt, about the hope that maybe humanity would find friends among the stars. No, said finally. We will not strike there, we will not kill civilians to prove a point. He straightened his shoulders. Humanity is strong enough to show mercy. Let that be the example we set. The aide looked relieved. What are your orders, sir? Turned back to the screens. The fleet at Sanctuary was gone. The military infrastructure of the hegemony was destroyed. There was surrounded but unharmed. Send ambassador to negotiate terms. Complete military disarmament. Reparations to all the species they conquered. An end to their imperial expansion. He paused. And protection for their civilian population under human supervision until stable government can be established. You want to protect them, after what they tried to do. Nodded slowly. We have proven we can destroy them. Now we prove we are more than destroyers. He looked at his staff one by one. The galaxy is watching. They are waiting to see what kind of species humanity truly is. Let us show them something worth respecting. On Sanctuary, Governor stood in the central square with his people. Above them, the human fleet held position in orbit. They were gone. The danger had passed. People were crying, laughing, hugging each other. Children who had been terrified hours ago were now pointing at the sky and cheering. We are safe, announced through the speakers. Earth came for us. Humanity did not forget. An old woman grabbed his arm. Tears streamed down her wrinkled face. I never knew, she said. All these years, I never knew we were so strong. Smiled gently, neither did they. He looked up at the warships that had saved his world. For 200 years, humanity had hidden in the shadows, building strength while pretending to be weak. That time was over. The mask was gone. The secret was revealed. Now the real work would begin, building a new relationship with the galaxy, proving that strength and mercy could coexist, showing that humanity was not just another predator but something different, something better. It would not be easy. Many species would fear them now. Others would hate them. Some might even try to build alliances against them. But humanity had faced worse odds before. They had started with nothing and built the most powerful military the galaxy had ever seen. They could build peace too. All they needed was time. And patience. And strength. 3 days after the battle at Sanctuary, Ambassador walked through the streets of the city was ancient and beautiful. Tall buildings of gray stone rose toward a purple sky. Gardens of alien flowers lined every street. It had been built over thousands of years by a proud civilization that had conquered half a galaxy. Now that civilization knelt before a species they had mocked as weak. Walked alone. She carried no weapons and no guards. Human warships still surrounded the planet, their weapons locked on every major city, but she wanted to show something different. She wanted to show that humanity was not afraid. People watched her from windows and doorways. Faces looked down at her with fear, hatred, and confusion. This small human woman had helped destroy their military in hours. She represented the species that now held their world hostage. But she did not look like a conqueror. She looked tired and sad. The council waited for her in the Hall of Emperors. It was the oldest building on the planet, where every major decision in hegemony history had been made. Statues of ancient warriors lined the walls. Banners of conquered species hung from the ceiling like trophies. Walked past them all without looking. The council sat at a long table. 12 who had ruled an empire now waited to hear their fate from a creature half their size. High Commander was not among them. He had returned to his in disgrace, stripped of his rank and titles. Ambassador, the council speaker said, his voice was hollow and defeated. We are prepared to hear humanity's terms. Sat across from them. She placed a data device on the table. These are our requirements: complete military disarmament. All warships will be surrendered or destroyed. All weapons factories will be dismantled. The hegemony will maintain only a defensive force sufficient to protect against pirates. The council members exchanged glances but said nothing. Second, reparations. The hegemony will provide resources and support to every species it has conquered over the past 3 centuries. This includes rebuilding worlds your forces damaged and providing compensation to families who lost loved ones to your expansion. Still no objections. Third, the hegemony's imperial structure will be dissolved. The worlds you conquered will be given the choice to remain connected to your civilization or to go their own way. You will not punish them for their choice. The council speaker leaned forward. And what of our people? Was quiet for a moment. She had thought about this question for 3 days. She had read reports about their history, their culture, their art and science and philosophy. They were not monsters. They were a civilization that had grown powerful and had chosen to use that power badly. Your people will be protected, she said finally. Humanity will maintain a presence in your system to ensure stability during the transition. We will help you build a new government. We will make sure your civilians have food, medicine, and security. You are not going to punish us, not going to make an example. Looked at the banners on the walls, all those conquered species, all those worlds taken by force. We considered it. Many humans wanted to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten us. She met the speaker's eyes. But that is not who we want to be. We have proven we are strong. Now we want to prove we are wise. The council agreed to every term. 3 months later, the Galactic Concord reconvened. The Grand Assembly Hall looked different now. Human representatives no longer sat at a small platform in the back. A new seat had been created at the High Council table, reserved for the species that had reshaped the galactic order in a single day. Took that seat. 43 species watched as she settled into her position. Some looked at her with respect, others with fear, a few with barely hidden hatred, but all of them paid attention. All of them listened. The Conquered has offered humanity a seat on the High Council, said. We accept this honor with humility and with hope. The ambassador whose species had first welcomed humanity to the stars spoke next. The galaxy has much to discuss. The balance of power has shifted. Many are uncertain about what the future holds. Nodded, that uncertainty is natural. For 2 centuries, you knew humans as a weak species struggling to survive. Now you know the truth. It will take time for trust to be rebuilt. How can we trust you? A representative demanded. You hid your strength for 200 years. You deceived us all. How do we know what else you are hiding? The chamber fell silent. It was the question everyone wanted to ask. She walked to the central stage where she had once stood as a representative of a forgotten species. Now she stood as one of the most powerful individuals in the galaxy. We hid because we had to, she said simply. When humanity first joined the Conquered, we were young and weak. We saw how the galaxy treated young and weak species. We saw conquests and extinctions. We saw bullies and predators. She paused. We decided to survive. We decided to build strength in secret rather than become another victim. But now that you are strong, the pressed, what stops you from becoming the predators? What stops you from conquering us all? Nothing, admitted. Nothing stops us except our own choice. We could conquer every world in this galaxy. Our fleets could burn every species that looked at us wrong. We could rule through fear and force. She looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as she could. But we do not want to. Humanity has always dreamed of the stars. We dreamed of exploration and discovery. We dreamed of meeting new civilizations and learning from them. We dreamed of friendship, not domination. Her voice softened. The galaxy taught us that those dreams were foolish. The galaxy taught us that strength was the only thing that mattered, so we built strength. But we never forgot those first dreams. She turned to face the ambassador. They welcomed us when we were young. They warned us about the dangers we would face. They showed us kindness when others showed us contempt. Bowed her head slightly. Humanity does not forget its friends. And now that we have power, we intend to use it to build the galaxy we always wanted to find. The ambassador rose. His species had been the other one to offer humanity aid over the centuries. What would this new galaxy look like? Fair laws that protect the weak as well as the strong. Trade agreements that benefit all parties, not just those with the biggest fleets. A Concord that actually keeps the peace instead of just watching while empires devour their neighbors. Smiled slightly. It sounds naive, I know. The galaxy has never worked that way, but perhaps with enough strength behind the idea it can. The assembly discussed and debated for hours. Some species embraced humanity's vision. Others remained skeptical. A few openly opposed any change to the existing order. But at the end of the day, everyone understood one thing. Humanity had the power to impose its will on the galaxy. Instead, they were offering partnership. It might be their only chance to shape what came next. 5 years later, Admiral walked through the gardens of Sanctuary. He was retired now. The war, if 90 seconds could be called a war, was long over. The hegemony had kept its agreements. The conquered worlds had chosen their own futures. The galaxy was slowly learning to trust humanity, and humanity was slowly learning to trust the galaxy. Governor walked beside him. They had become friends over the years. Both had played their parts in the events that changed everything. Both had chosen mercy when vengeance would have been easy. The colony is doing well, said. We have new arrivals every month, families who want to build something here. Watched a group of children playing in the gardens. Among them was a young girl. She had come to Sanctuary as a refugee after the war. Her parents had been killed when their transport was destroyed by a human strike force. She had every reason to hate humanity. Instead, she played with human children, laughing and chasing butterflies. Was it worth it? Asked quietly. All those years of hiding, all that preparation, and then 90 seconds. Thought about the question. He thought about his grandmother who had dreamed of friendship among the stars. He thought about the billions of humans who had lived and died keeping the secret. He thought about, still serving on the High Council, still working to build a better galaxy. Ask me in 100 years, he said finally. Laughed. You will not be around in 100 years, my friend. No, but they will, nodded toward the children. The human kids and the girl were now working together to catch a particularly fast butterfly. They were failing, but they were failing together, and that seemed to make them happy. The galaxy had called humanity gentle. They had mistaken patience for weakness and mercy for incapacity. They had laughed at the quiet species that never threatened anyone and never fought back. They would never make that mistake again. But perhaps, in 100 years, the galaxy would understand something else. Perhaps they would see that humanity's greatest strength was never their weapons or their ships or their hidden fleets. Their greatest strength was the ability to destroy everything and choose not to. To win completely and then offer peace. To become the most powerful species in the galaxy and use that power to build something better. The children finally caught the butterfly. They held it gently, admiring its colors, and then they let it go. It flew up into the clear sky of Sanctuary, free and beautiful.